Hi, I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. Our regular guest, the author of this book, I'm giving it away, Kevin Shipp from the Company of Shadows. It is an evergreen book. It is about everything you'd want to know about the goings on of the deep state, the shadow government, the globalists, the New World Order. It is on his website, fortheloveoffreedom.net, and we're talking about Kevin Shipp. Kevin Shipp, thank you for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
Thank you, Greg. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
All right, I'm changing the format a little bit, so we have a two-parter today, but we want to talk about in our first part about this Jeffrey Epstein case, which is an unbelievable case, and not only that, but how the Jeffrey Epstein case is intertwined with the coup, the soft coup, the plan to take down the president with the FISA abuse, and you have the Horowitz report coming out soon. Comey's involved, the CIA, the State Department, the National Intelligence Director, the head of the CIA, the White House, Obama administration, and then you have Jeffrey Epstein and all the tawdry, underage women and big name people, being involved in this case. Are the two cases linked? Jeffrey Epstein and the plan to take down the president?
Well, I think they are. Excuse me. The soft coup to take down the president, as we know, was initiated by Hillary Clinton, going through the DNC and laundering the money through Perkins Coie, and we all know how that wound up being the false dossier and Hillary's emails, etc. Well, it turns out that Bill and Hillary Clinton were very, very close to Jeffrey Epstein and his Madam Ghislaine Maxwell. We all know that Bill Clinton claimed he only flew on the Lolita Express, Epstein's plane with, a bed in the back of it. He says he only flew on it 4 times. Records show, the flight logs show, he was on it 26 times, and 8 of those times without his Secret Service detail. So also, Epstein was bragging that he was one of the original contributors to the Clinton Foundation and helped the startup. And I think he gave him $45 million or something. Wow. So he was deeply involved in the Clinton Foundation, which is one of the largest charity frauds in history that has not been prosecuted yet. And what is really, you don't hear much of this in the news, but in my opinion, it's critically important. Are there intelligence connections like there were in the soft coup? Example, John Brennan and the CIA. Well, you remember Alexander Acosta, U.S. District Attorney, who did not prosecute Epstein as he should have. He stated he didn't do it, and this is him, that he had, quote, been told to back off, that Epstein was above his pay grade, and, quote, I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone. And he made that statement to the Trump transition team as they were bringing him on board, and they brought him on as labor secretary after that. So there appears to be, and I think there's several different tentacles that lead Jeffrey Epstein to the connection to Mossad and the CIA.
Do you think that the same players involved with Epstein are some of the same players, or at least have some of the same motivations to get rid of the president? These stories are unbelievably. They seem to me to be totally linked, and yet the press is reporting them as totally separate stories, and really they're almost reporting it like Jeffrey Epstein, he just liked young girls, which is, gross. But they don't really talk about all the implications of the royal family and of Ehud Barak, who was the nemesis of Bibi Netanyahu and all this other stuff. But the same people that took down that were involved in Jeffrey Epstein are some of the same people in this global takedown that is unfolding. The Five Eyes were involved, foreign spy intelligence agencies, MI6, Australia. They had stuff going on in Italy. They had all the unbelievable people. This seems to be just one big giant cover-up and a plan to destroy the president.
I agree. And again, this has definite intelligence connections with Israeli Mossad and the U.S. CIA with Jeffrey Epstein. Whether that was a blackmail operation they were running, whether the FBI was involved with him as an informant, there is no question that Epstein was connected, just like the parties of the soft coup against President Trump are connected to U.S. intelligence and foreign intelligence. And it is clear to me that that's the case with Jeffrey Epstein and his connections like the Clintons. Also, he has one of his major connections. This is his inner circle, was Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia. So, and Ehud Barak, former prime minister of Israel, and it goes Prince Andrew, as you mentioned, and it goes on and on and on. These are some of the most powerful people in the world that were in his inner circle, and that would include U.S. and Israeli intelligence.
William Barr is the head of the DOJ. He runs that mini supermax prison. That was it was a good prison by all accounts. I mean, they had a lot of high profile people. El Chapo was there.
Right down the hall. Yeah.
So what's up with him having an attempt on his life? They call it suicide. And then again, I'm starting to hear this whole apparent suicide. That's not apparent suicide. Why in the heck didn't William Barr bring in the people that is their job to protect witnesses, witness protection of the U.S. Marshal Service? Why didn't he do that? What is your read on this?
That is exactly correct. You have one of the most high-profile witnesses and possible criminals in U.S. history. In the case of William Barr, and he tries to commit suicide, which, in my opinion,
in the case of Epstein, in the case of Epstein,
William Barr, ultimately the buck stops with him. So they put Epstein in this prison. First time he tries to commit suicide, quote unquote, and his cellmate, a 4-time convicted murderer, says, well, he didn't see it because he had his headphones on. Now, Barr was in charge of the whole safety of Jeffrey Epstein. And there should have been a whole contingent of U.S. Marshals to protect this huge witness, but there were none. Now, why is that? And in addition to that, I read an article by an attorney general, or former attorney general, that said, I would have been on the phone checking on Epstein daily or even by the hour to make sure he was okay. Barr didn't do that. He turned it over to the Southern District of New York. They didn't do that. It is just unbelievable how they left this kind of huge witness to die in prison with the prison guards off for 3 hours, as we know. The camera's not functioning. Taken off suicide watch. Put in a jail cell. His cellmate removed. On and on and on we go. There are so many things that add up to this not being a suicide. It is remarkable.
Do you think Barr is in on the deal? There was a time when you said, I'm not sure about Barr because, he was a Bushite. And then you said, well, they're going, to go after with the Durham and they're going after the guys that try to take down the president. Now, where does this leave you with your analysis of William Barr?
Well, it goes back to shades of Huber. Remember, Huber was supposed to wrap it up. He was supposed to investigate the soft coup. He was going to name names, heads were going to roll, and then he produced nothing. William Barr, who should have been monitoring Jeffrey Epstein regularly every single day for his safety, didn't do that, completely left the case alone until he found out what he claims or calls an apparent suicide. Now, we're all still hoping that Attorney General Barr does his job and some people are charged or indicted, but that's starting to bother me a little bit with at least the negligence on this case.
Why?
Because a major witness that was connected to high-level people in government and finance was left alone to die in a prison. I think he was murdered. Just my opinion, based on the facts I put together. That all was left to happen by William Barr. The pieces just don't add up to this being a suicide or an accident. There were too many things that were not done, and the primary of which is why weren't the U.S. Marshals there, and on it goes. They heard shrieking and yelling early that morning just before they found his body. As I mentioned, the guards didn't check for 3 hours. 2 of them weren't guards at all, and one of them was a quote-unquote substitute. The guards falsified the records to make sure that wasn't apparent, and no one, at least by last checking, no one has interviewed these guards yet. WTF? That'd be the first thing you do. And of course, now we know the autopsy finally came out, and there's multiple fractures of the hyoid bone, which is just below the chin. And I consulted several experts and a couple symposiums. And the majority of the time, a hyoid bone fracture is due to strangulation. Because if you hang yourself, the rope goes above the hyoid bone and then cuts off the airways. So a fractured hyoid bone, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, hyoid bone is the most common in strangulation. So we've got so many strange things going on here that it doesn't add up. And I have to say that Attorney General Barr is ultimately responsible for this happening.
Do you think that they'll be able to prosecute some of these people? Did they? I'm wondering where the evidence is now. I mean, they supposedly they had videos, what you're hearing, that they had a lot of important people with video cameras everywhere. If they were
Yeah.
running an extortion racket, a bribery, not a bribery, a blackmail racket,
Yeah.
with the
Right.
video, do you think that that the case is lost now that Epstein is gone? Barr says it's not.
Well, Barr says it's not, and Barr says that they've opened a new investigation into Epstein's death. They already have an investigation going on with Epstein. They're going to open up a new one, and in times past, when the DOJ has opened up another investigation, it went into a black hole and nothing happened. So sometimes an investigation is just a deflection to take people's attention off trying to see what was going on here. Let's hope that's not the case here, but it does to me not look promising. So you have to ask yourself, why the heck this kind of at least negligence or maybe intentional leaving a huge witness vulnerable like this? These people are not stupid, so this couldn't be stupidity. There's something else going on.
And you think Barr has to be you think Barr has to be involved because he ultimately is in charge of that prison. I mean, he moved. He what did he do? He basically suspended the guards, but he moved the warden somewhere else.
Yeah, and here we go.
I mean, why wouldn't he just take the U.S. Marshal Service and say, "Hey, warden, I'm going to send you a dozen marshals over. You're going to do what they say to do when they say to do it." Got it?
Yeah, yeah. It's the same old thing. Well, we're doing an investigation, and we're going to do something to the people involved. So we've removed the warden, and we're looking at these security guards, and they're the boogeyman. They always, when they're doing something that is irregular, they always have to choose a boogeyman, and once that boogeyman is dealt with, well, it's all over. No need to proceed any further. That's what concerns me about this case, that they're going to do that and say, well, our investigation, so-called, didn't show anything other than a suicide. They're going to try to make this go away, I think. And as I mentioned before, the buck stops with Barr. Why did Barr let this happen? Why did he let him be in a cell after a suicide, taken off suicide watch, and then left alone for 3 hours by these so-called guards? I mean, as I mentioned earlier, Barr should have been on the phone with the prison and with the warden every single day to check. At least one former prison official said he would have checked every hour. And in suicide watch, they're supposed to be checked every 15 minutes, regular watch every 30 minutes, and yet they didn't check for 3 hours because the guards were asleep on one of the biggest witnesses in U.S. history. Things just don't add up.
That's just unbelievable. Really just unbelievable that this is.
It is. Yeah.
I mean, it's not. I mean, I was very hopeful about Barr, and this to me tells me that come on, how can are you that stupid? I mean, you got the U.S. Marshal Service, the people that are experts in witness protection.
Yeah.
You didn't use them.
Yeah. Why not? Why not? I mean, that's standard procedure. It's not they'd have to scratch their heads and come up with that as an idea. That's standard procedure, especially for a witness with a serious danger of being murdered.
Well, supposedly these reports are coming out. The Horowitz reports coming out on FISA. They say that Barr and Durham are doing it. Now I'm very, I hate to say this, but I'm very skeptical that Barr and Durham, is Durham going to be allowed to do his job?
I hate to say it too, but I'm skeptical also.
I mean, how much how much investigation you have to, you got the signatures on the FISA warrants. Why aren't there charges?
Well,
they
right.
just exonerated Comey over the leaks, which is outrageous.
Yeah, you're right, Greg. The evidence is already there to prosecute these people for falsifying FISA affidavits, to prosecute Hillary Clinton for a violation of Title 18 espionage laws. The evidence is already there. Why do you have to do another lengthy investigation to find out what's already been proven? That alone bothers me.
And the cases are I mean, the same high-ranking people that probably are behind. I mean, we're always to the White House. Well, Obama has got handlers above him. I suspect in the New World Order, these people at the Bilderberg Group. I guess you're an expert on the. You're an expert on the deep state. Tell me how that basically the people at the top of the deep state, the shadow government, the whatever you want to call it in your book, they're looking at both of these as the same, are they not?
Well, yeah, and as I've documented, what the deep state, the shadow government do, they do in secret, and not even Congress sees what they're doing. Barack Obama, I call him the subversive president because of the large amounts of money that came from nowhere that they can't document, his lack of experience, and on. There's a lot of strange things. As we all know, I did a speech on this about Barack Obama gaining office, and then we saw what he did to destroy America and traditional America afterwards. So there's no question about that, that in my opinion, he was a plant, he was a subversive president, and there's a lot of evidence that points in that direction.
But you think he was directing because they had the emails and the text messages saying the White House between Strzok and Page, the White House wants to know everything we're doing.
Right.
I mean, that he must have known if this was a counterintelligence operation, then wouldn't he know that?
He did. I know because I was involved in this. The CIA disseminates to the president every day what's called the Presidential Daily Brief, the PDB. And in the PDB, you've got all espionage, counterintelligence cases and other important cases that go to the president's desk, and he reads it every morning. So the PDB went to Obama with this so-called intelligence, these false stories from Brennan and others. Those went as intelligence to the desk of Obama
about Trump. So he would certainly go, wow, we have a counterintelligence case about the candidate Trump?
Well, what they were doing, the setting up George Papadopoulos, putting Stephen Halper in the campaign as an informant spy. The PDB would include all of that by law. The president would see that on his desk. Obama knew all this was happening, and also through Strzok's text, amongst other things, it was clear that the White House, in other words, Obama, was directing this entire thing.
Does Epstein dying his I'm just going to call it a murder?
That's what I think it is.
Is his murder, is it going to hurt the case to investigate the people that try to take down the president, because these cases are intertwined?
Well, there's still some strange things. Epstein's attorneys claimed that he was in very good spirits because he was convinced, because of the laws on double jeopardy, he couldn't be charged again for the same crime, and his attorneys were going to get him off. So according to his attorneys, he was in very good spirits and told him he'd see him Sunday, and then he wound up dead. That's the question. Can they try? You remember that Alan Dershowitz gave the co-conspirators immunity from prosecution in the first trial. That's why we're wondering why Ghislaine Maxwell doesn't have U.S. Marshals on her.
Wait. Alan Dershowitz gave immunity, or he got immunity?
He got immunity through the courts. He got immunity for
he got an immunity deal for these people. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And he got Epstein off for 40 counts of human trafficking with young girls, got him completely off from that. And he was able to get the court to keep the proceedings secret from the victims, which is a violation of another statute. Alan Dershowitz, who, of course, we know has been Epstein's attorney for quite a while and has come out and admitted that, yes, he did have a massage on the island, but it was from a tall, older lady named Olga. So,
okay. He denies, just so we get this on, he denies that he's in any part of the sex trafficking. He just says, He says, I'm his lawyer. So,
and that could be possible. He does.
Epstein's a tawdry guy, but he deserves representation.
Yeah. Yes.
I just find, anyway, there's enough other players. I mean, Dershowitz, who cares? I mean, whether or not he did or didn't, and he says he didn't. But all this other stuff, this trafficking, this other stuff. Do you think that Epstein dying hurts the case because they're intertwined? Do you think that Epstein dying hurts the case against the people who tried to take the president down too?
I do. Especially
why? Why do you think it hurts the case to take that?
Well, it halts a lot of the investigation. Now, let me put some silver lining to this, in that the FBI has completely raided his mansion and his vault, and they've got some pretty damning trove of documents from there. I don't know why they took so long, but now they've raided Epstein's island, giving anybody enough time to clean that place up. So there's a lot of damning information that the FBI has now on certain people. At the top of that list, the one who flew the most, who was a politician, would be Bill Clinton, and then he lied about it. So they're intertwined in that regard, and with the Clinton Foundation, which we know is a fraud and criminal around the world. You've got these two intersecting with Bill and Hillary Clinton. And of course, Hillary Clinton is tied directly to the dossier in an attempt to get rid of Donald Trump. So these webs interlock with each other, and these people interlock with each other. Welcome to the global elite. Welcome to human trafficking. These things are connected with Epstein dead. There's a lot of prominent people breathing a sigh of relief for now. Does Barr have, is he aggressive enough to pursue? He says he's going to pursue this case anyway. Does that mean he's going to call in the people that are on Epstein's CDs, photographs, and videos? That remains to be seen. And I think we should watch critically what Barr does from now on.
I want to get to the end of part one here, but you brought this up, and I wasn't going to bring it up, but you said, oh, no, there's something significant about this, and that's this painting, and let me get it full screen for you, and this is, of course, Bill Clinton, and it's this painting here, and then there's a row of books over his head, and only one, you can only see one of the books up here. I'll get a better picture of this later, but he's in a blue dress with red shoes, and you say there's significance to this. What is the significance of this painting that was hanging in Jeffrey Epstein's house? And you say you've confirmed that this is a bona fide painting of the former president, I think, President Clinton.
Yes, correct. When I saw this picture, when it first came out, it was verified that it was hanging in Epstein's mansion. I looked at it and I said, there's some hidden messages in there. Just from my background, sometimes you can smell these things. But I said, let me look at this closer. And the first thing I noticed was above his head on the bookshelf, there's a book turned out. With
hold on. Let's start with the blue dress.
Yeah.
Here's why. Here's why I want to start with blue. Because I look at it and go, this is the blue dress of Monica Lewinsky. And you said, no. So let's start with the blue dress there. And we'll get to it. I want to hold your other work up there. Let's start with the blue dress. What in the heck is the significance of the blue dress?
You got it. That's very important because people are saying, oh, this is Monica Lewinsky's dress, and it's kind of a joke picture. This is not Monica Lewinsky's blue dress. If I sent you another picture, this is the blue dress that Hillary wore at the Kennedy Center Honors program. Same dress. I've got a picture of that. People can compare the two. In this painting, Bill Clinton is wearing Hillary's dress that she wore at the affair at the Kennedy Center, named after the assassinated president. And there's a picture that proves that. I think you have that too.
Yeah. And, okay, so there is the dresses. And now this is your workup on this. So we definitely have Hillary. I'll just put it front and center.
There it goes.
That's the dress. So you could see it. Hopefully you could see it before.
Yep.
That's her at the Kennedy Center. And then here is the photograph of Bill. That's the dead solid hit of the dress. That's it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then here's your workup here that I thought was very interesting. So this is your little workup, and then we start with this, but this shows up better in your picture. This book right here, which is this that you did research. This is it.
Yes, when I saw that figure, and now one broadcaster said that that's a bust of JFK. It's not a bust. Have you ever seen a bust of the person with their head cocked? Never. But I knew when I saw this, I said, I have seen that on a book somewhere. That's a book turned out of JFK for a reason. And if you look, there's the book. Now, what they did, the painter did, was he flipped the book so that it's pointing in the opposite direction. But you can look at each one of the pictures and see that it's JFK, and it's the picture from the book about the JFK assassination. People can take and research it from there. But these are all hidden things. The red shoes, of course, are the new feminist symbol of empowerment. Maybe that was a Hillary thing. I don't know. But there are hidden things in this painting.
And what do you think it means that he's thinking, hey, we're going to kill the president, the new one? I mean, Donald Trump. You think it's a threat or some sort of premonition of assassinating President Trump?
It looks like, and this is just conjecture, but it looks like he's pointing and saying, we're going to get you, Donald Trump, the same way that Kennedy was gotten. Now, that's my conjecture, but if you put all this together, I think that's a plausible explanation.
Whew. Man, I'll tell you what, buddy, and you are a former counterintelligence officer that your clearance was high enough to protect the CIA director. I think was it Casey, William Casey?
William Casey, yes.
William Casey, that you protected him in his house.
Yes.
So I don't know how high your clearance has to be, but I would suspect it'd have to be pretty high. And you also did all this kind of research for the CIA.
Well, I was a counterintelligence investigator in the counterespionage group, so I researched counterintelligence case after counterintelligence. We were looking for a mole inside the CIA. That's why I can kind of smell these things, because they all have the same footprints. But yeah, I did many investigations on that.
And you think that painting is in his house has some ominous
I do.
connotations to it.
I do. Yeah, and that's I think why Bill Clinton liked it. But I do. Yes, just my opinion, but I do.
Okay, listen, we're going to come back. There's some earth-shaking stuff. This is the end of part one, and part one was about the intertwining of the Epstein case and the case against the people that tried to take down the president. And you did a masterful job of putting that together. A lot of holes in the whole Epstein suicide case. But part two is coming up, so stay tuned for part two. We'll be back with Kevin Shipp.
Thank you, Greg.